I chose criminology and I went about my classes. And I remember being there one day and there was something announced on a flyer somewhere in the hallway that said that there was an internship with DEA. So I was like, okay, I'm going to apply. I'm going to see what happens. So I went into the internship office. I signed up and I remember going to the interview and the recruiter is sitting there looking at me and I'm just babbling at this point because I'm so nervous and I really don't know what I'm doing. I just really want the internship really bad. So I started explaining to them why I want the job. And, I'm persistent if anything. So I explained to him what my journey was at the time. I was a single mom. I had a son who was young. I was working and I was going to school at night part-time to get my degree to offer us a better life. And I think opening up to him about what my journey was like, I think that really impressed him. And I remember him telling me that I got the internship at that point. It was a year with DEA. And I have to tell you that opened the door for me in law enforcement because before then, I had heard of DEA and FBI, but to me, it was like a foreign thing, right? I didn't know anyone in these jobs at the time. This was all brand spanking new for me. So I walk in on my first day. They train me up. I get to know people. And I remember the recruiter, the first thing he said to me was, before I started, he's like, you need to take this internship and you need to make as many contacts as you can while you are there for that year. And he says, that is going to propel you in your career moving forward. Because he says, this is temporary. What you do with it, this is your calling card. If you don't do a good job on this internship, people are going to remember that, right? They remember the good and they remember the bad. So he was like, put your best foot forward every day, go in there, be yourself, work hard, and talk to as many people as you can. And I'm going to tell you something, it was good advice because now in my career, so I'm an intelligence research specialist by trade, right? I've been doing it for 22 years. 13 years of that has been with ATF. 9 years of that was done with ICE, Immigration and Customs Service. And prior to getting into federal service, I worked on a task force. It's called the High Intensity Drug Trafficking Area. And it's local, state, and federal partners all working together on cases. And that was a great experience. But what opened the door to all of that was the internship that John Jay provided me. So I know you guys are all students there. I'm sure that John Jay now has even more opportunities for you guys to do internships. Take those opportunities. I put in the chat my mailbox. Please send me questions, anything you need to that mailbox. I'm the one that gets the emails because what I want you to know from my journey is that no matter where you are in life, you can get to wherever you want to go by working hard, by networking with people. Listen, I wasn't always outspoken as I am now, but you have to force yourself to do it because it's the only way for you to meet people and maintain those connections. So if I need something from anyone, right, I can call somebody and I can get them to help me out. But it's because I have that bridge that I created with them. So I'm going to backtrack a little bit. So I graduated from John Jay and I got a job at this task force. Now, again, I didn't have any experience in law enforcement at all. So I know a lot of you will ask, how did you get your foot in the door, right? Because if you don't have any experience, and that's the downside of any job is they want experience, but how do you get experience if they don't give you the chance, right? So I had a friend of mine whose mom worked for the U.S. Attorney's Office in Manhattan. And my friend gave me her mom's phone number and she was like, call my mom and see if she has somebody that she can communicate with to see if they can get you in the door. So her mom was nice enough to do that for me. Everything else was on my own, right? She opened that door for me, but I had to interview. I had to do everything to get that job and keep that job after. So even though I did have that connection, you can go on LinkedIn, you can go on so many platforms, Indeed, USA Jobs, which is where you get any federal job, is through that USA.gov website. You create a profile on there and you create a resume in there. Now you can upload the resume that you have there, but I don't suggest you do that because the one on USA Jobs is a federal template resume, right? So our resumes for the federal government are very different than private sector resumes. Where private sector, you need to have your resume at a page, maybe two max. With a federal resume, we want to see everything. So some of our resumes are 5, 6, even 10 pages long, depending on how much experience, classes you've taken, just every single thing you need to put on that resume, because what that does is it lets our human resource people in headquarters know what you're all about, right? Because that resume is your calling card. They don't know who you are, right? You are the resume. That is your first entry through the door. So you have to make it good. If you have a second language, put that second language, that third language in there. If you're young and don't have much experience, but you babysat, listen, I have 3 kids. My babysitters are like my family. They take care of my most precious commodity, which are my children. So what does babysitting show me? That you're responsible, that you're good with time management, that you have your priorities in check, right? Because you're taking care of children. That's a huge job, okay? You have that as experience, put it down. I want to see that. You've been working, let's say at the Gap. I want to see that. Guess what? You're working customer service. You're working with diverse populations of people every single day. You have to know how to deal with a situation. When someone comes to you upset, how do you manage that situation? That's all things you can articulate in a resume to show these people what you truly bring to the table, your skills, right? ATF hires from all majors. Back when I went through, you had to be a criminal justice major. Now you could be anything. You can have any major. Why do we do that? Because we don't want cookie cutter people, right? We want people that have studied all kinds of different things so that they can bring those skills to ATF and make us a more diverse agency, a more filled, like, rich and fulfilling agency. For example, one of the agents that's on my recruiting team, he used to be an engineer, a full-fledged engineer working out in the field, and now he's a special agent with ATF. He brings with him those skills that he learned studying to be an engineer and working in the field as an engineer. And he brought those all to ATF and he utilizes them, believe it or not. The same with me. I bring with me from every job that I've ever had the skills that makes me a good intelligence research specialist. So I'm going to break down what I do on a daily basis. So with my position, I don't arrest anyone. Okay, I'm going to put that straight up. I'm not an agent, but I work with the agents. So I have the best of both worlds. I work criminal investigations side by side with the special agents from the beginning of the case to the day of the arrest. I'm there. I'm at a command post on the radio. I'm watching them breaking down the doors through the cameras that we have. And I am documenting everything that is happening during that arrest. And we have big scale arrests. So we don't just arrest one person during a takedown. We arrest 15, 20, 25 people, and everybody's hitting those doors all at the same time. So I'm there documenting it. In case something happens, that is all documented. It gets sent to our headquarters and there's visibility, right, for everything that we're doing. But what I love most about my job is I have the best of both worlds, right? So I can work a criminal investigation with a special agent, but I work 9 to 5, Monday through Friday. They're sitting in their car doing surveillance at 1 o'clock in the morning. I'm home sleeping, but I get to go home, get to go into the office the next day and hear about what's transpiring in the case. Now, if something is happening in the state of New Jersey, which I live and work in, it's all hands on deck. So if it's 1 o'clock in the morning and they're calling me on my work phone and I have to report to a command post because there's a bombing or there's a mass shooting or something's happening, I have to get dressed and go. Okay. I've worked weekends. We also do wiretaps, right? So we're listening in on people's phone conversations. I'm sitting in a wire room for 10 hours, 7 days a week until the wire is over. But again, that's not your daily normal, right? It's when things are taking place in the case that you go out and you do that sort of thing. So what I do is I do a lot of information like dissection. So I take social media. I go into your social media account. I look at all your posts, everything on your timeline, your pictures. If you're a bad guy and you have your profile set on public and you're taking a picture of yourself with your 2 guns and your money laid out on the table, guess what? You've just made my job a lot easier because now you have provided me with evidence that we're going to use to arrest you later. So that's one of the things. And I always tell people when I'm at career fairs or doing guest speaking events, as students or people looking to get into any kind of job, you have to be careful what you put on your social media. If your parents, your grandmother would be completely upset with what you posted on social media, baby, it shouldn't be there. And I follow the same rule of thumb, even though I'm a federal employee and we have to be extra careful with ours, I always did anyway, right? Because again, your social media is a representation of you and your life, really, So always be careful with that. But that's something I do all the time. I do social media, right? I do a lot of cell phone exploitation. So when someone gets arrested, we take your phone from you and we extract your information through our systems. There's specific systems that we use and we take everything. Snapchats you've had on everything. Your history of where you've gone on Google or where you've traveled on Waze, we grab all that information. So if you can imagine at your cell phone as a tiny computer, right, that we take all, I see hundreds of thousands of records of everything on your phone. And I have to dissect that. I have to find patterns, who you're talking to, what time of day are you talking to, who do you talk to the most, right? And then we start bridging that out to see who you are, who you're hanging with, and that sort of thing. So that way, when I go and arrest you, I know where your mom lives, or I know where your girlfriend lives. So if I can't find you over here, I'm going to find you over there. So that's what I do. I get a person's information. Let's say the agent comes to me with a phone number. He's like, Marilyn, I need you to tell me who this phone number belongs to, and I need to know everything about them. That's what I do. I'm like a professional digger. I dig into your life, from your phone number to your social media, to your address, to your financials. I look at everything and I build a picture for the agent so that he knows who his target is and he knows where to look for them and who he's associated with, right? Because most of the things that we do is all gang and group related, right? So we need to know who your connects are, right? Who you're out there in the street with, trafficking guns or trafficking guns, because those two things go hand in hand. So a lot of our cases are drug and gun cases. We also do a lot of arsons for profit. People set a company on fire to collect on the insurance. the people that own the establishment will burn their own place down and make it seem like it was an accident. So we look at that sort of thing. We look at bombings, domestic bombings that happen in this country. ATF is on the scene. All these mass shootings that you hear about, like in Sandy Hook years ago, where all those kids and some of the teachers were killed. The first people in that school was ATF. And I was actually in the office, and they had body cams on, and we were able to see what happened at that school. I was here in New Jersey watching those agents walking in through the halls and watching all of the kids that person killed. So that's all part of the job, right? Another thing I do is there's been a lot of shootings lately, right? So I get all the shooting information. It's called NIBIN information. We have NIBIN machines. So when the local cops go out to a shooting, they go out and they look at the evidence, right? And a lot of times there are shell casings. There's no gun there, but there are shell casings. Those shell casings are collected by the local PD. They're sent to the lab. That's for all you forensic folks out there. They sent those shell casings to NIBIN. They go in there and they look. So the bullets will tell us what kind of gun that bullet came out of. And my job is, so I get this spreadsheet every single day from local PD, New Jersey State Police, of guns recovered, of shootings. I have to put that all together so that when the gun is recovered, I can say, okay, that gun that we just found in that Newark shooting, that's also connected to Patterson, Jersey City, Camden shooting, and Trenton. So I build these huge maps and I put all of the shootings to show patterns of where these shootings took place. A lot of times also we do proactive cases. I do them. So I look to see, I grab a neighborhood and I see what shootings or violence was taking place in that neighborhood. And we target the most violent offenders in that specific area. So I work with the local PD in that specific city. Let's use Patterson. That's a very violent place in New Jersey. It's in Northern Jersey. So where our office is. So we work very close with them. There's a shooting there every single day. Every single day. So what I do is I go into a neighborhood, I look at the violent crime there, whether it's a shooting, it's a stabbing, it's, armed robbery, whatever it is. And we target a specific neighborhood. We work with the local PD. They give us the most local violent offenders in that area that they know, because they're the boots on the ground, right? They know these people. They see them every day. So they know who they are. They give us those names and we create proactive investigation using the information that I provide them with the NIBIN information, which is the shell casing, that data I get from the local and the New Jersey State Police. All of those different pieces of the puzzle I use to give people a visual snapshot of what proactive cases we should be looking at. So for me, it gives me a lot of satisfaction that I'm able to be proactive in getting some of the most violent people off the streets in my own backyard, in my state. So for everyone here that's interested in maybe not arresting, because that's not for everyone. I knew early on that wasn't the path I wanted to take. I knew I wanted to be involved in criminal investigations, but I knew I didn't want to be out there arresting anyone. So the best thing for me was to become an intelligence research specialist, because I had every perk besides going out there and arresting anyone. So it's a good position to be in. We go up really high on the pay scale. So if you go on to opm.gov, I'm under the Department of Justice. So we go by a GS scale. So that will tell you, so we start off for a grade. So let's say, for example, the highest we can get non-supervisory is a GS 13. Okay, that's 6 figures right there on the nose. And we also have GS-14s, which are supervisory intelligence research specialists. And then there are GS-15s in this job series that are also big bosses, GS-15s, and they are area supervisors. So for instance, we have area supervisors for the Northeast and Central, that sort of thing. So this job series goes up pretty high. This job is what you make it. I'm not going to tell you there aren't people in my position that will do the minimum of what their job is. That's not me. I'm 100% all in anything that I do. So if someone's calling me at 10 o'clock at night and one of the agents and they need something done, I have my laptop at home, I jump on and I do it for them. If it's case sensitive, I'm going to do it. I have a second language. ATF pays for translators for the agents if they need something translated, or if they go out to speak to someone that speaks a different language, they bring a translator. Guess who they bring? They bring me. If it's a Spanish speaker, they bring me. And I do it all. I do the interview, I write up the reports, and then I transcribe them to put into our case management system. Right now, I'm on a detail. I'm a regional recruiter for ATF, so I'm under our headquarters. So in addition to my regular job, I'm out there. I'm going to different schools, to events. I was just in Puerto Rico 2 weeks ago for 24 hours, speaking to the military out in Puerto Rico. So this is what I'm doing now for the next year. This is going to be part of my new job responsibilities, is going out and educating people on ATF, our positions, how to apply for a federal job, the pitfalls that you should stay away from in order to be able to get a job like this in some point in your career. One thing I want to stress, and this is a new thing for me to have to talk about, is the marijuana laws now in New Jersey and New York. Okay. So marijuana or cannabis is legal in the state of New Jersey and it's legal in the state of New York, but it is not legal federally. So if you want to work for the federal government, stay away, because our drug policy is not as rigid as it was when I came through. When I came through, you couldn't say that you ever used a drug. Zero. Now they realize that people have in high school, in college, and so forth, have experimented smoking marijuana or what have you. We don't expect perfection with ATF. We just expect you to be honest. So you have to have 3 years from the last time, let's say, that you smoked, to apply. And it can only be a handful amount of times. So just make sure that you're super careful, because I know it's so confusing to people now that it's legal on the state side. So everybody's like, yay. No, you can't do it if you want to work for the federal government. So, you know, if you start applying for these jobs, make sure that you're honest, right? If you did do it, put it down. And they're always going to say how many times, give an approximation, okay? Because we're not sitting here counting how many times we do something, right? So we have a ballpark of what you did, put it down. For my position for ATF, I do not have to be polygraphed, okay? If you come in as a special agent, you do. If you come into any other federal agency as an intelligence research specialist, you do. ATF is unique that you don't have to be polygraphed, but you are drug tested and your background is extensive. From the minute you put in your application until the minute you get hired, it's about a year. Okay, so that's like the timeline. And that's quick, because for me, it took, when I first got into the federal service, it took like 2 years for me to get on. So they're speeding things up because they don't want to lose good candidates that get sick and tired of waiting for the job. They get another job somewhere else, they get comfortable, and then they don't want to come. So they're speeding up the process significantly. So a year is great. I know it sounds like a lot, but it's not. So just keep living your life, keep going to school if you want to, pursuing a master's or what have you, working, because the work experience will continue to enrich you and give you skills to bring onto the job. The other thing I want to mention before I open it up is really quickly, ATF is the only agency that you can apply for a federal job 9 months before you graduate. Okay, that's huge, because I just said that the process is a year, right? So if you apply 9 months before you graduate, by the time you get to the point where they're offering you a job, you're there. You're at that year already, and you will have applied way before. So definitely take advantage of that. We just had an announcement. It was for recent college graduates for my position nationwide in ATF. And we had thousands of applicants put in for those positions. There are going to be more. There are going to be more for special agent and another position called industry operation investigator. That is also a non-arresting position, but it does not have an age limit, which mine doesn't either. Special agent, you have to be sworn in before you're 37 because they have to do 20 years and they must retire at 57. So they have to be able to come in at 37 to do 20 years. So Edwin, are there anything in the chat questions that I can answer?
Well, now we're opening up the floor for any questions or answers. So if you folks want to talk, just raise your hand. That'll be a lot smoother. But I'll vice versa from, raising your hand in order, which is fine. Don't think I'm going to miss you out. And I'll go to each question in the chat if anything comes up. But it'd be easier if you folks raise your hands. So let me get to Alexa. The floor is yours. You can go right ahead.
Hi.
It's Alex. Sorry.
Alex, sorry.
No, it's fine. People have butchered my name many times worse.
I apologize.
Me too. Don't worry.
Trust me, you should hear how they misspell my last name. Thank you for having me. I was going to ask, which section of the ATF are you again? Before I ask my question.
In terms of what, the position?
Yes, in general. So you just work with all the big three?
I work for Intel, so I'm in part of
Right.
the intelligence group as an intelligence research specialist, and I work in New Jersey.
So I've never been able to really get a good answer on this. I've always gotten the Wikipedia answer on this. God bless Wikipedia. It's great for surface level stuff, and it gives you some decent sources. But my question is, what are the mainline sections for the ATF? I know there's explosives, alcohol, tobacco, firearms. I know they work together usually, and there's forensics teams specialized for each. But Intel is the general overview. But what other sections are there? I know there's agents, but there's special agents for each group as a background.
Yeah, so that's why I wanted to do the video beforehand, because it gives you an overview of all the professions. So we have a lot of STEM-based positions as well: forensic chemists, forensic biologists. We have people that work in the labs looking at the guns. If somebody scratches off the serial number on the gun, we have people that raise that serial number. They do the forensics on the gun, the fingerprints, that sort of thing. Besides the special agent,
Right.
Besides the industry operation investigator. Now that position, which I mentioned prior, is the regulatory side of the house, right? So they go out to the gun dealers, the explosives dealer, and they regulate. They make sure all of their books are in order. They make sure that there's nothing missing, because if there's something missing, there's going to be a problem. They can take licenses away from these firearm dealers, from these explosive dealers, if they're doing anything that they deem as criminal in nature, or they're selling to people that are not supposed to have guns, like felons, that sort of thing. We also have positions as investigative analysts. They're more administrative. So they work with us, the intelligence research specialists. They do some of the work that we do. That is a entry-level position into the federal government. So if you want to find something truly entry level that's going to expose you to the administrative and some of the intel, that's a good position to be in, the intelligence analyst position. And every federal agency has that job series available to it. Did that answer your question?
That
Sort of,
did.
kind of?
I was thinking about going into the forensics position myself, and people are asking for the for your email for about
Yeah,
this
so
program.
it's in the chat. So it's recruit
Yeah, I just
New
reposted it.
Jersey. Yeah,
Let me
Ah,
post
right.
it.
recruit New Jersey at atf.gov.
Right, thank you. I was
You're welcome.
thinking about going into the forensics program. I've taken a few courses in high school, a couple
Perfect.
in college. My background in it is mixed. I've done my own equivalent of online stuff, like trying to
Okay.
figure out like what happened with something.
And another
Uh,
thing, I'm sorry to interrupt you. Before I forget, the other thing I want to mention to you is, and to everyone, if you took these specific kinds of courses, you have to list them on your resume. And again, on a federal resume, the resume can be 10 pages long. Put it in there because it shows that even if you haven't done the job, right, you don't have experience with a job doing that, you do have an education that you took in that specific class that gives you at least that foot in the door to know about that specific topic. Does that make sense?
right. Okay, so writing that down would be a great keystone. I
Yes.
took a college level one,
Yes.
a college class, as well as, okay, that would give me a great 3 steps into the door.
Even the high school stuff, put the high school stuff in too. If you took specific courses in STEM, my daughter's a biomedical student at her high school. And I tell her all the time, keep track of all those specialized classes you're taking in that shop in high school so that you can put that on your resume moving forward.
One more like course I took some basic car care stuff. We did a lot of machining as well as working with some mechanical tools, all
Okay.
things technically that could be used in firearm creation.
Absolutely.
But would you say that would be a great background choice to write
Yes,
down
I
that
do.
Okay, wow, I have a lot of technical courses that I've taken.
Good, perfect. List them all down. And definitely go on to atf.gov/careers because it does a breakdown of all of the positions that ATF has to offer, including the lab, including the forensic and STEM-based positions as well, so that you can read more on it.
Okay, thank you.
You're
will go
welcome.
work on my resume then. Thank you.
All right, perfect. Thank you.
Hey, Alex. Sylvia, you're next, and I apologize for any folks that if I mispronounce your name, so it's okay.
You are perfect. Marilyn, thank you so much for coming on. I was so excited to hear the description of your job because it sounds like exactly the sort of thing I would like to do.
Good, yay, perfect.
And so I have 3 questions, but I think they're very quick, hopefully. So I'll just fire them off and I'll let you answer. So if I wanted to look for jobs like the ones you do, even if it's not with ATF, if it's DA or another federal government,
Yes.
Am I searching for intelligence research specialist? Is that the title?
Yeah, so that's a great question. And I'm going to throw this out also for everyone else. Although I work for ATF, I understand that it's very hard to get into the government these days. So you have to throw your net out really wide. Apply to every federal agency under the sun. Our series is 0132. That's the intelligence research specialist position. Okay. So when you go on USA Jobs, there are filters. You can go in and create a filter for that job series, the 0132 intelligence research specialist. You can put it for your specific area, let's say New York City or New Jersey, or you can leave it open nationwide. You can put daily and you can leave the agency open. And every single day, USA Jobs will send you emails that of those positions that become available through USA Jobs for any agency for that job series.
That is awesome. That's super helpful. And so the other 2 questions I had were, and maybe I'll just ask them together, is because I would be an experienced hire. So I've been working for 20 years and I wanted to shift careers, which was why I came to John Jay. So that's one part of my question. The other part is, you mentioned, having kids and all of that.
Yeah.
And I love the frank conversation you have in the beginning, because I'm in a similar situation. And I just wanted to understand kind of from your experience, how you've managed that? Because I know you mentioned there is the exception where you may need to do an evening or a weekend.
Yes.
Like, did you just find your own kind of personal team to help you with that backup, or is there any support from your job in terms of, hey, we have a network that can support, the parents out there? Just trying to figure out how you've managed all of that.
It's a great question. So when I initially got into the federal government, I was divorced. I was a single mom with my very young child at the time. And the saying that it takes a village is sure takes a village.
Mhm.
And in those terms, I had family members help me, friends help me, whoever I can call, they knew the type of work I was doing. And everyone pitched in to help whenever they could. So if one person couldn't, I was calling a whole bunch of other people until somebody said yes, and they helped me out. Then moving forward, with the job with ATF, one of the reasons I love ATF so much is because they're very family friendly. We work together as a family, so they understand the needs. There have been times I've had to go away on a trip and something's going on at home and I can't go, and they will send someone else. They'll have somebody else volunteer, take my place. And when that person has a job, I'll take that job for them if I can as a swap.
Gotcha.
So they've been very accommodating when it comes to family and that sort of thing. And I also have a network. I have babysitters on call for me, especially now. My kids are a little older, but they don't drive, so they need to be driven places. So I have an army of people that I hire, and friends and family that will pitch in, because they understand that sometimes the demand of the job is instantaneously. When things happen, you can't plan for it. You have to react. And I have a Rolodex of people that I have on standby to help me out when those opportunities happen to arise and I have to go for it.
Gotcha. Thank you so much, Marilyn. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. And reach out through email anytime.
Thank you. I wrote it down. I will do.
All right, perfect. Thank you.
Hey, before we go to the next question, that is a great thing for any of you folks who are here. Family-friendly jobs, that is a plus. As a parent myself, I think Marilyn will be in touch soon eventually, because I'm thinking of moving to Jersey. But with that said, let me get Marissa right on. You can go ahead, Marissa. The floor is yours.
Hello. My name is Marissa. It's really nice to be here and to get all this information. I just graduated John Jay with my master's in forensic psychology.
Beautiful.
And I'm definitely looking to go into a more law enforcement sector than psychology and like clinical things. And my question was regarding, I know you touched upon the marijuana restrictions that are in federal government. So my question is, in your opinion, if someone, like, I hate to put myself on blast, but if during the pandemic, I had a medical card and I have been using marijuana to help with my anxiety and things like that. So that was obviously pretty recent.
Okay.
Would you suggest to, stop using it and to apply and just be honest about the use, or would you suggest to wait? Or
Okay, this is a great question, and we've been getting this a lot from people that hold, medical marijuana cards, right? They're all asking the same questions. My thing is, if you can safely, stop using it now, that'll be great. You can still apply. I always say there is no harm in applying and being honest, right? And telling, when you go for the interview or what have you, you explain yourself, right? And listen, again, we're not looking for perfection. We know things happen, but my biggest rule of thumb is be honest, be transparent. And if they're going to say no, they're going to say no, right? But you put your best foot forward. You were honest and you did everything you could to, let the agency know why. And, and that's all you can do. But I would definitely say, you graduated, you're going to be looking for a job. I would definitely say, if you want it in the federal government, I would definitely say if you can get off of it and start, but I would say still start applying now, because the process takes quite some time to go through.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if that would be, if I had to wait 3 years or what, but
No, this is different. And you'd be surprised at the amount of people asking us this question. And we
Mhm.
still have not gotten any information, not just ATF, but DOJ wide, any information regarding medical marijuana, what they're going to do with that, because this is all so new, you know, with New Jersey and New York especially. This just happened. So everybody's reeling from it and trying to figure it out as we go.
Right. Okay. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Before I go to the next question, that's really great point you put in, Marilyn. I always tell folks, as a former local law enforcement NYPD, it's a gray area. It all depends on your evaluator. Federal tends to be flexible. I'm not saying completely totally flexible, but it lends to be
Right.
understanding.
Yes.
Some local law enforcement folks, if you're applying for other local law enforcement, depending on the state, I mean, I can give you an example, like Texas will ask your dating history. I don't know why, but that's Texas state of mind. So every local law enforcement is very different in regards to that sort of matter. But again,
Right.
federal is quite flexible. I'm glad you bring that up. But just to let you know, folks aware, if you're looking at other venues, local law enforcement, it really is very particular.
Yes.
So
Absolutely.
Simran, I hope I pronounced that right. Simran Singh, the floor is yours.
Yes, thank you. Good afternoon. My name is Simran, and I just had a few questions regarding what the training looks like.
Okay.
For instance, are there any like exams or like I know there's an academy, but maybe like how
Yes.
long the academy is?
Yes, that's perfect. Perfect question. Thank you for bringing it up. So the process for my position is, so you apply in USA Jobs, it goes to our HR. HR creates what's called the best qualified list, right? So it's, let's say, the top 10 they deem, you know, would be perfect for the position out of the hundreds of applications they get. That is sent over to our field office. Let's say for me, it's New Jersey, right? So our office, our big boss, the special agent in charge and the assistant special agent in charge, they look at the list. We set up the interviews, okay? Once you interview, within a few days, you will find out whether you were moving forward. If we pick you, there is no written test. You guys look out, because I had to take a written test when I went through for this position. It was a writing test, because we do so much writing in our career that you have to write well. And so, because that's how we communicate so much, is through writing. So they do not have the writing sample anymore. Yay for you guys, boo for me. And then moving after that, it's the background. There is no polygraph. So that's good. And there is a drug screening, which they will give you, they will send you an email that day, and they will say, you have to go to this lab right now before it closes, and you have to give a sample. Okay. And that just, you know, prevents people from trying to cheat, trying to flush out their system, all the tricks of the trade. We know them all. We know people do them. So that's why you get the short notice. So drug screening, so interview, drug screening, background, that takes the longest. And then after that, you come into the field office, and you're going to be paired up with someone like me, a senior intelligence research specialist. We're going to work on the job together on cases for a year. In that year, you will go to an academy. Our academy is 4 weeks. It's strictly academic. There is no PT, thank God. There is no PT, strictly academic. They teach you all of our databases, how to use them. And it's nice because you don't go right away. So you're in the field with me, and you get to see what I do and how I do it. So when you go to the academy, you already have some knowledge, right, of what you're learning, which always helps. Then once you're, and the academy, it can be anywhere. So I went to Washington, D.C., our headquarters, to do the training. We have an intelligence research specialist there now who's been on the job like a year and a half. He got delayed because of COVID. He started during COVID, which is a disaster, but anyway. So he's going now, and he's in Nashville. So it fluctuates. It could be anywhere in the country, but it is 4 weeks. ATF is paying your salary, and they're paying for all your incidentals, your hotel, your meals, everything while you are in training. And then you come back to the field. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you so much.
You're
and I do
welcome.
have one more question. So I know you mentioned you worked for ICE as well.
Yes.
So I just want to know, personally, like I applied to both intelligence positions with both agencies. I'm just
Okay.
waiting to hear back.
Yes.
But what are some differences that like you notice for both agencies? I know there's different types of crimes for
Violations.
both. Yes,
Yes.
but in your opinion, like yeah, just the differences.
So basically, the job itself, when I went from ICE to ATF, the only difference in the actual job itself is the violations that we investigate with ICE and the stuff that we do at ATF, right? So I was doing like human smuggling and domestic terrorism. I was doing a lot of gang work there with like MS-13, that sort of thing. Export, import violations with ICE, that sort of thing, right? When I went to ATF, I was investigating guns. I had no idea about guns before I got to ATF. So that was a learning curve for me. So, you know, gun trafficking, I had to learn about that. Arsons, you know, arson for hires. We had a big fire here at a paper company, the Markel paper factory. You've all heard of the Markel company, where their main factory was here in New Jersey. It burned to the ground a few years ago. Okay, I was on the scene for that fire. I was at the command post. I was interviewing the people that work at the Markel factory. That's different than what I was doing at ICE. So the only difference is the violations. The actual work, the social media stuff, the cell phone exploitation, the putting the targets profiles together, where they live, who their family members, all of that is all the same. That sort of work is all the same. It's just the violations that you are investigating that are the difference. And both agencies are wonderful. So wherever you land, you'll be happy.
Yeah, thank you so much. Appreciate
You're
it.
welcome. No problem.
All right, Jamie, I didn't forget about you. So the floor is yours. Jamie?
Hello, how are you?
Oh,
Yes,
awesome.
I'm
How you
Hi,
doing?
Jamie.
I didn't run away yet. So thank you so much. I just wanted to verify because I'm actually in the Air Force. How long do you say the resume has to be?
The resume, if you should build it on USA Jobs, the resume can be any length. I know for private sector, which is anything outside the government, they want you to really streamline it to a page or two maximum. The government, the federal government, is the complete opposite of that. We want every single thing on there. The longer you can make it, the better, because that way you don't miss anything. Courses, experience, education, certifications, military experience, all of that is relevant and it's important. And that's why with our resumes, we want them to be long, because like I mentioned before, they're your calling card. That's who we see, is the resume, and it has to tell your whole story so that you can get on that best qualified list to get that interview.
Okay, thank you very much. And also one last question. I don't believe that you actually touched on the criminal history background check or anything like that.
Okay.
So when it comes to being hired for the ATF, what exactly do they look at? Is it on like tickets, like arrests? Like, can you give an example of what will be disqualifying?
Yes, so felonies will definitely be something that you will not be able to get in the federal door with. There will be some misdemeanors that may or may not pass through. Again, it really depends on what the violation was, how long ago it was, etc. So I can't give you an exact. The other thing I was going to say with the process is, when you do the paperwork for the background, make sure that you put reliable people on there for these investigators to talk to, because they go back 10 years. So when they did my investigation for ATF, I had already left New York City and was living in New Jersey. And they went back to the building where I lived and talked to about 6 or 7 of the people there. Thankfully, some of the ones still remembered me. They were the old timers in the building. But for the new people, they saw badges on the door. What happens? They don't open the door. They talk to no one. And so they have to move on to someone else. Also, if you put someone that takes this as a joke and will say something crazy to an investigator about you, thinking they're being funny, it could get you disqualified. So I always say, make sure that the people that you put on know how serious you are about this job and know that they have to be a good reference for you. There's no fooling around. There's no joking around. They have to be good references for you because it is a very in-depth process. They also look at your finances. So make sure that you're up to date with your bills. I'm not saying pay everything in one shot, but try not to be late. If you have to give the minimum, give the minimum, but make sure that they see that you are having good faith with your debt and that you are paying things off slowly if you have larger debt. That's a huge thing. Student loans, same thing. Pay those student loans off because people have been disqualified for defaulting on their loans. That's a huge thing that follows you forever. And your other debt, car loans, anything else, your rent, that sort of stuff. We look for that because we don't want you to get on the job, be be in debt, and then do things you're not supposed to get money on the side, you know what I mean, to pay off your debt. So we need to make sure that you're out there being responsible with your debt. Again, doesn't mean you're not going to have debt. I have debt, but make sure that you're paying your bills and that you're not over 90 days late, because then that goes on your credit score and they look at that too.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
We'll take this last question. Is Stephanie? Floor is yours.
Hi, my name is Estefania,
Hi.
and
Stephanie,
I'm currently
sorry.
it's okay. I'm currently a junior and studying computer science and information systems.
Okay.
So I was wondering, how does technology played in your career, and like how much did it change over the years, and like are you still learning more technology? And my
Great
second
question.
second question is, you talked about working with data and like how you
Yes.
analyze it. Do you use like SQL or R, Python? Like how does that work?
Okay, so in terms of technology, yes, my laptop is my best friend. That's what I use to do these investigations, right? So our technology is always changing. So in my position, we're constantly being educated and trained because it's funny, the bad guys, they're up on their technology. They know all the tricks. So we have to be a step ahead of them, right? When we're doing these investigations. So we use like Celebrite is something we use for cell phone exploitation. We use different law enforcement databases, right? That take all of these data sets, these huge amounts of data, and they break it down. We use something called PLX, which is Penlink. We use that to analyze, phone information, text information, social media returns from, Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, WhatsApp. We look at everything. We have so many resources at our disposal. In addition to that, I'm part-time task force officer for the New Jersey State Police. So in addition to our ATF databases, our commercial databases, I also have the New Jersey State Police databases at my disposal as well. So that's all we do. We work with technology all the time. We work with commercial and law enforcement databases every single day of our jobs. That's all we do. In addition to going out and doing interviews with people, interpersonal skills, being able to communicate verbally with people, that's another thing that we do. Did that kind of answer both your questions, or do you want me to elaborate on something I missed?
You answered my question, and also,
Okay.
you know how you say you get into like people's information, like
Yes.
Snapchat? Is the CEO of Snapchat, are they letting you allow you to go inside their program systems, or do you already have access to it?
So in order to get any kind of information, personal information like that, we have to get court orders from a judge. And we have to show just cause of why we are requesting access to someone's information. So if we have just cause to do that, a judge will sign off on a court order and we will send that over to whoever the provider is, whether it's Snapchat, WhatsApp, Facebook, etc. but they work with law enforcement all the time. Again, we're not invasive. So, we have to have a reason, and we have to prove it in a courtroom to a judge of why we need this information and what you did in order for us to be able to access that information.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
We'll do one last one, folks. Karina, I hope I pronounced that right. The floor is yours.
Yep, it's correct. Hi.
Hi.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you about, I just finished my undergrad, so I am looking for something, something like this. I've done a lot of research and took the research class, statistics, loved it. So it really sounds like something I'd love to do. So I wanted to ask you, so you said the process is about a year.
Yes.
And once, crossing my fingers, everything goes well. Once you're in there, what is it like for people that are thinking of going to grad school or law school after that?
Yep. Yes. I
Yeah,
mean, that we promote it. We promote higher
Yeah.
education. We have a ton of people that started off with their bachelor's degree, and over the course of their career, they went back to school, they got their master's, they got their PhDs. ATF is all about education, whether it's training on the job or it's furthering getting your higher education, higher degree, because that's just enriching the agency even more and your skill set.
Great. Yeah, absolutely. And also, going to school and working at the same time, or would that be better part-time? How would that look like? Or it depends on the program or the section you're under.
Yeah, so we have plenty of people that work during the day and go to school at night for ATF. We make it work. I mean, I was working in law enforcement and going to school to John Jay at the same time. You know what I mean? Already in law enforcement on the local level, on the task force, but I was still doing it. It's tough, but it's manageable. And I would say most law enforcement jobs, whether it's local or it's federal or state, they're all going to be huge advocates of you getting a higher degree if that's what you want to do, because it only enriches what you do for them.
Yeah, that's great. And in terms of kind of tuition reimbursement or being eligible for any programs within the organization, are there such things or?
There are for ATF right now. It fluctuates back and forth. Sometimes they'll pay for different courses. Sometimes they'll pay for degrees. For ATF, it's a little bit tougher for other federal agencies. I know others will pay for a full degree or will pay for courses. It depends where you end up. And once you get there, when you start your new higher orientation, a lot of times your packets will have information about whatever programs for higher education that specific agency has to offer.
Yeah, that's great. And one more question.
Sure.
So long term, right now I'm thinking of either becoming a lawyer or working in the mental health field. And in terms of having consultants, how would that work? Once having worked, with the state, and also how would that process look like?
So, and answering, so basically what you're asking me, if you're doing consulting, let's say in the mental health, how would that, equate to the fields, to law enforcement?
Yeah, kind of. For example, as a lawyer, for example, but you still want to work with, the same organization.
Okay.
And I think you can also be the lawyer for that organization, but also
Yes.
just wanted to do consulting as well. That's all possible.
So I got you now. So yeah, so basically, yes, we do have chief counsels, which are attorneys for ATF. We have one in every single state for ATF in New Jersey and across the nation. What you're asking is, can you be an attorney for, let's say, ATF and then work outside of ATF for a law firm? So that would be off-duty employment. And that's a case-by-case thing that our headquarters has to evaluate. because there can't be crossover, there can't be conflict of interest. And so every single person that wants to do that, regardless of the job that they do in ATF, they have to give a justification, all the information, and then our headquarters will look at that specific situation and will either say yes or no. So it's not clear cut. It depends on the circumstance, on the company and the job that you want to do outside of ATF, and how they deem it, whether it's going to be a conflict of interest for the agency or not.
Okay, got it. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
So, folks, this concludes our career chats. We want to thank Marilyn, round of applause for
Thank
your
you.
time, your expertise, your knowledge.
Thank you.
So much. Definitely we'll be having more of these series soon, and definitely this won't be the last time you hear from Marilyn.